Hello, I'm Joseph Palermo. I wanted to welcome you personally to this episode of Dreammaster Studios Theater because of the subject matter involved. Over the weekend of April 9th, 10th, and 11th, 1999, my unusual phenomena investigative colleagues and I traveled to Eureka Springs, Arkansas to attend the 11th annual Eureka Springs UFO Conference. This particular conference is one of numerous such conferences across the country that have developed since 1970. All are focused on the scientific investigation of anything and everything involving UFOs. At this particular conference, we were all confronted would be the best word, and shocked by an amazing claim. Lloyd Pye, author of the book Everything You Know Is Wrong, Book 1, Human Origins, is the caretaker of what he refers to as the anomalous skull. According to Mr. Pye, the reality of this skull has three possibilities. It is possibly a never-before-seen combination of birth defects that should have killed this being at birth. Strikingly, it is possibly the skull of a pure extraterrestrial creature, or more shockingly, it is possibly the result of a genetic combination between humans and aliens. I have personally seen and examined the skull. I've also performed psychometry on it, the results of which are published in our free online e-zine, the DMS Hotwire e-zine. As I and my colleagues perform our job of assisting Mr. Pye in releasing the news of the skull's existence to the public, and as the results of the DNA analysis are concluded and released to the public, what you're about to see and hear will likely become the topic of a raging debate. You may even witness future attempts to destroy the skull in an effort to preserve current human history.
Well, what you see here on this table is two skulls, a human skull and an anomalous skull. Now the story behind them is very interesting. 60 to 70 years ago, a young American girl of Mexican heritage was taken home to visit her relatives by her parents. She was between 15 and 18 years old, and she went to an area 100 miles southwest of Chihuahua, Mexico. She was told immediately upon entering the little village, do not go in the caves and mine shafts in the area. And so, needless to say, a teenager, is the first thing they're going to do. So she snuck off, and in one of the mine shafts, which was like a tunnel, at the very back, lying on the ground, she found the human skull. And you can see the difference in the coloration, because the human, while lying on the dirt, there was what she called a misshapen hand coming up out of the dirt, wrapping into the human arm like this, connected to it. So she scraped that dirt off that hand, and she found a misshapen body and a very misshapen skull buried in a shallow grave. So you can see the difference in the color. This one's clearly stained from being buried, but they were found together. So she recovered both of the skulls, brought them back to America, and kept them for the rest of her natural life. She died several years ago, and when she did, she passed them on to an American friend of hers who had them for 5 years. He didn't really know what to do with them, and so he passed them on to another couple who had some UFO affiliations, and so they had an idea of what to do, and they began to look for somebody to handle the project, and they chose me because in the field I work with bones. That's what I do. My book is called Everything You Know Is Wrong, Book 1, Human Origins, and in those human origins I deal a lot with comparing pre-human bones to human bones and showing why there's really no comparison. So because of that, they called me in and they asked me what I would do with this. I told them. They said they agreed, and so here we are trying to determine exactly what this one is, because it is so clearly anomalous in terms of the human one.
Can you hold it a little closer, Lloyd?
I will in a moment, but I want to tell another part of the story. And since I have found out about this, I have found that throughout South America, there is something called the Star Being Legends, which is a collection of legends that go from the tip of South America, literally all the way up through the American Southwest, Apaches and others. And in the legends are these, wherever you hear them, that beings from the sky, from somewhere else, come down to Earth into small rural villages throughout, again, South America and Central America. And in these isolated villages, they will pick a female, impregnate her with a star child. She will be allowed to have it, raise it up to the age of 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, at which time they come back and get it. And so that is a well-known phenomenon and has been for hundreds of years. Now, it's not known to collective science or any of that, not accepted, but it is out there as an ongoing, persistent legend. And generally, when you have that much smoke, you have some fire. It's the same thing of the thousands of people who claim to have been taken on board a spacecraft, totally disbelieved by mainstream science. Yet again, that much smoke, you have to suspect some fire.
Correct.
Same thing with the hominoids, Bigfoot and the abominable snowman. You get so many sightings, you have to assume there's something behind that. People wouldn't make that up and endure the ridicule that comes with that. So I take that those star being legends seriously. And if you do, then you look at the scenario of how the lady claims she found the skulls, and you can imagine, although there's no proof for this, but you can imagine that this was a mother, this was a child, that she somehow found out that they were coming back to retrieve the child. We know that this was 5 years old at the time of death because of teeth. We'll talk about that in a minute, but this was a 5-year-old. This was a 20 to 30-year-old, probably about 25 years old when she died. We'll talk about that in a minute. So we can see this as a mother, this is a child. She gets the word that they're coming back for her child. She doesn't want them to do that for whatever reason. I see it as a very drastic solution, but nonetheless, she kills the child, she buries it in a shallow grave, she leaves the hand sticking out to hold on to, she poisons herself, she lays down, and in holding the hand, she dies. And then they're found however many years later by that girl. That scenario makes sense given what we know about how it was found. But again, I want to stress there is no proof, just as I want to stress that there is as yet no proof that this is nothing more than a very deformed human child. But it is also just as equally possible, in my view, if not more so, that this is either a pure alien or, as we've just been talking about, an alien-human hybrid. Because there are many, in the same way that there are thousands of stories of people being taken on board craft, there are perhaps hundreds, if not thousands, of stories of women who feel that they have children, they have at least some gestated for some period of time, hybrid children. So, with all that said, I'd like to show your audience now what it means to be human, and I'll just talk to them. If you look at the human skull, the key features you have to notice, or that you should notice, are the eye sockets first. Now, the eye sockets in a human being are cone-shaped. It's kind of hard to get the view just right. See, if you can see in there the cones, you see how the depth of them, they're 5 centimeters. They're 2 joints of my finger. 2 joints of my finger, the depth. Now, at the very back of the cone, right there at the back. Now, the reason is because we human beings have eyes that move to see. We have the eyeball, and we have muscles at the top, bottom, left, and right. So we have attachment points in here, and the eyeball itself sits here. And in the back, at the back of the cone, is the optic nerve and the optic fissures, the optic canals. If you can see those slices there, those cuts in the back.